Hello everyone, Britton here, and today I'm doing a review slash discussion thing. This is gonna be a little odd. I am here with Jason Fuhrman. I have a bit of an unusual opportunity. He very kindly gave me his book, Song Into the World, and since I know you and you gave me this, thank you by the way.
You're welcome.
I thought we could talk about it.
Let's do it.
How you doing
Happy
today, sir?
happy to talk about it. I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm just it's a good day. It's actually been not a bad week. So far, good.
Good to hear.
I'll admit, Jason, I kind of underestimated this book. Not that I think you would write it badly or anything. I'm sure Jason's a good writer. I thought, 174 pages. I should knock that out in a couple of days. Well, I'm afraid it was a little opaque. It was, there were times I'd contact you, I'd be like, "What is going on?" It's the fun thing with knowing the authors you're talking with.
Yeah, you were asking
I
me questions as you were reading it, and I said, you know what? You should probably get to the end, and then I'm happy to
oh
answer any questions that you have, because you know how stories work, right?
yeah yeah
They
yeah
reveal
no
things
I
over time.
yeah I was just like it's not like I liked it. I thought it was a good book. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. But there were some points I was kind of like, wait, what is going on? I had to I texted you a couple times, and no, I mean, I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic stuff, so I'm like, oh man, I want some of that. Um,
Yeah, it's not your standard post-apocalyptic. There's a little bit of I
it's
guess
very
more
surreal.
yeah, it's there's a little bit more science fiction in there than your standard kind of Mad Max vibe where it's people just surviving. And I didn't quite reveal everything because it is part one in a trilogy. So by the end
Oh
of the
yeah,
trilogy, everything should make sense. But there's
okay.
some things with Isla, you know, the little girl. She has some stuff going on with her. So it kind of ends on a somewhat of a cliffhanger, I guess.
Yeah, there was some moments where some monsters. I'm guessing. Am I warm, or is it just something
Well,
out of their
I guess
imagination?
I, I mean, I guess for people. So we spoke about this on chat before, but it's for me it's kind of a regret, but also not because I'm still proud of the book. There's definitely things that I would do differently now. You know, my writing
Of
style's
course.
evolved as it always does. You know, between writing and publishing that book, I've written over 100 short stories and trying to
A
dabble in
little
different
series on your
voices.
channel.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's on
haven't
my
I haven't
channel.
watched any of the videos sadly,
Oh, you
but
haven't?
hopefully
Um,
one hopefully someday.
Yeah, they'll be there forever as long as YouTube lasts anyway. But I think I've learned a lot since then. Again, I'm still proud of the novel for what it is, and but I have gotten plenty of feedback very similar to the stuff you've been saying, and that is that some people didn't. There were certain aspects of the novel where people didn't know what was happening, and
Like,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say you can continue, but I was like, yeah, there were some moments she was just kind of walking around, and I was like, so she escaped. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to get too spoilery.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything in case people want to pick it up, but it's so it's told in a very limited POV.
Oh yeah.
So it's told in a
Um.
very limited POV from a person who is undergoing a lot of mental stress. So I don't want to say it's an unreliable narrator situation, but you know when you're under a lot of stress, I just pictured this young girl out in the middle of the apocalypse and just you know her mother is gone, she's captured her sister, you know it's just absolute horror. What does that do to someone's psyche? How do they perceive the world, right? So it's like things. So what I did in the novel is I wrote them in such a way that is strictly from her perception. So we don't get any omniscient or things that are described in a way that they are. It was more like how these characters were perceiving things. And so when you have someone in a heightened sense of stress, it's almost like you said, surreal, hallucinogenic. And that I think led to a lot of confusion. Now, I'm not making an excuse saying, hey, readers, you just didn't get it. I'm just trying to explain the intention. So when people go into this novel, they're not going to, I guess they'll know what to expect. Because I think that's a big part of experiencing anything, right? A novel, a movie. If you have no idea of what to expect, you might have certain genre conventions in mind, or certain authors you've read in the genre that you think this might be like, or movies you've seen, whatever it is, or whatever they are. And this one's, yeah, like I said, it's post-apocalyptic technically, but it's different. It's not your standard, ragtag group of people kind of trudging across a wasteland, dealing with raiders and Last of Us kind of thing, or anything like that. It has those elements, but I decided to do something deeper.
Sorry.
No, go.
I kind of thought it would be like kind of Last of Us. We did a video where we discussed The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit like that, and I will say I do like how you're writing. There's almost it engages the senses. I mean, I kind of already told you this before, but I like how it engages what things smell like, and what she hears, and what she senses. Like, you could kind of. I felt kind of dirty when reading this.
Well,
not
that's
like
good. Good.
In a sexual way, but not in like a weird sexual thing, but like I felt like there was grime on, like when I read The Road for the first time.
Okay.
I don't know if it's as
No. Please don't say don't.
I don't want to say it like that.
It's not in the same league. I.
But it is similar in the case where I felt like I needed to take a shower after.
Well, that's good.
After reading it,
I think.
Was that your intention?
It's funny. I try to think. So I don't know if you know the story behind this novel, but I wrote a short story in a couple days. It was for a contest for a podcast, and I was like, oh shit, it's due in 2 or 3 days. So I just sat down and cranked it out. You can actually get the short story if you sign up for my newsletter. Anyone who reads it, it's for free. So when you sign up, you get the actual short story. And then I like won second place in the contest, and so I was like, maybe there's something to this. I kind of like the characters. I like what's the vibe, the feeling of it, and so I took it took me a long time to expand it into. I guess it's a short novel, a novella. It's about 40,000 words.
So it feels more like a novella than a novel. I digress.
But I honestly don't like to. I think stories are stories. I hate it when it's.
I didn't want to be a rules
word
lawyer.
Count. Yeah, when it's word count designations, because word counts are very arbitrary. They're not driven by anything but marketing. But anyway, that's a different story. So anyway, yeah, it was a lot of painstaking time to try to expand this. It was a great experiment. However, if anybody out there has a short story they want to expand into a longer story, it's a lot more work than you think. You kind of think like, oh, I have the foundation, right? I have a basis of what I want to do. But sometimes I guess the more I write, the more I learn that sometimes stories are the length that they should be when you concoct them. Trying to manipulate the length or whatever sometimes doesn't work. The ironic thing about what I'm talking about right now is this is book 1 in a trilogy. So it's a short story that became a short novel that became a trilogy.
I see.
Yeah.
So there's 2 perspectives in this.
Yep.
There is Maya.
Mia.
Either
Yep.
or, I'm guessing. Mia. Okay. And you said Isla is how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
Who is little sister. I actually pronounced it Isla because I didn't know how to say it. But
That's okay.
It's Isla.
I think it's an Irish name. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how your stuff. it kind of like I told you, it kind of reminded me of Bird Box in that it kind of engages the senses.
I'll take that
Um,
compliment.
I don't,
Bird Box was
I don't
great.
know if you like Bird Box.
I love Josh Mallerman's work.
Oh, okay.
He's great. I've read a man 3 or 4 of his novels, I think.
I read Bird Box and I enjoyed it. I saw the movie. I thought it was kind of dumb.
Yeah, the
Aside from
movie wasn't great. The only thing about Bird
that's
Box I didn't like, honestly, is the ending. I felt like it kind of culminated into something that was just a bit of a letdown for me. Um, Josh Mallerman, I know we're getting off topic, but what I love about his writing is he's very experimental. Um, he's trying new things all of the time. His concepts are generally cool. I feel like he doesn't always stick the landing, which is very similar to Stephen King. But
I know,
I always
yeah.
read his stuff. I enjoy it.
Um, I was also reminded a little bit of I know we're both big Cormac McCarthy fans. Sentence structure anyway kind of reminded me of his work a little bit. Just I don't know. I don't know if that was purpose. I know you said you kind of just started it off of a short story and weren't really, you know, you weren't pulling from any particular sources.
Hmm.
But
I mean, we're all inspired. I'm inspired by everything. So anything
unconsciously.
yeah, right. Anything you read or watch, you're constantly being inspired by. And I wish I could remember what I was reading and what I was watching around the time I wrote it, because I'm sure that would inform. It's just been so long, I don't even remember.
That's fair. Um, so basically, the gist of the story I got is Mia was out looking for her mom. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'll try and keep it vague for the audience members who watch this video. She goes. She comes up against this guy. Who's pretty fucking nuts, I'm assuming. Um, her mom. And then they go on a little weird side tangent. And then Isla is by herself. And she gets into
Yeah.
some shenanigans with fireflies. Very obsessed with the fireflies.
Yeah. So
Was that a coy like reference to Last of Us with the fireflies?
no, no, it wasn't actually.
Or are you
But
just kind of like, oh, kids love weird shit, so firefly,
no,
that'll work.
I'll tell you this. I'm trying to communicate an idea of something
Okay.
that Isla possesses, something about her that is unique. And so I use those elements to try to drop hints. Sort of the full meaning of that will be probably revealed at the end of book 2, because book 2 is actually a different character. It's kind of a parallel timeline where the stories do converge at the end of that novel, but it's maybe you won't fully grasp it until the beginning of book 3. But yeah, I wasn't trying to reference and it wasn't inspired by any game stuff. It was strictly I was just trying to think of, like, there's cockroaches. Cockroaches will survive till the end of the world, and all these other insects. And but
I
anyway,
like
what
how
she
you
gets up to.
capture. I'm glad. I admire how you captured a kid's mindset, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah,
I know
thanks.
a lot of writers struggle to write kids. I know that
Well,
for sure. I mean, Stephen King can do it. Neil Gaiman can do it very well. There's other authors I'm probably can't think of at the moment who can do it well.
yeah, it's
Um,
challenging when you're doing a limited voice. I prefer to write in third person limited all the time, and first person sometimes, which is basically third person limited, but with an I for a pronoun. Um, and so yeah, that's the challenge. The challenge is how do you write like from the POV of a child? Yeah, that's the tricky thing. So when you're doing omniscient like Cormac McCarthy, even Neil Gaiman, he's a little bit omniscient with his writing. He's more like Neil Gaiman's a little more storybook in my opinion. But yeah,
agree with that.
it's more of a challenge. It's really hard because I mean, honestly, I listened to your review today of Before They Were Hanged, or is it After They're Hanged? Before They're Hanged.
Before they were hanged.
Before They're
Yeah.
Hanged.
Look over
And you were,
there.
yeah, you were talking about character voice and how everybody sounds distinct. That's that's probably, I think, the biggest challenge of. I feel like I rarely read books that successfully do that. Cormac McCarthy obviously nails it every damn time, but
Even though he doesn't use punctuation or anything like that.
yeah,
It was funny. You're always bitching to me about character. This sounds bad, but you're always like talking about character and story. You're always like talking about that. It was like I like straightforward, simple stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I read this, and I'm like, oh, you're full of shit. This is really weird.
so
I
maybe
was gonna text you that, but I didn't want you to take it the wrong way and be like, "What the
no,
fuck?
no, no.
What are you
Hey,
talking about?"
I'm totally open to any criticism. I know it's not perfect, not by any stretch, and so I welcome anybody to give me constructive criticism.
I mean, I
Writing.
liked it. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I wrote that book. It's been a couple years, and I don't know. My philosophy on writing has changed a little bit. Again, I wouldn't go back and change anything, but trying to find. I think a lot of it, like I said, had to do with the fact that it wasn't just a young woman and a little girl. It was a young woman and a little girl in extreme circumstances that mess with her head. Especially Mia. Right? Mia was the one who was really struggling mentally and physically, and so I think that's really what made it less straightforward. But the next book is more or less character in his right mind, at least in the beginning of the book. So it should be a little easier to less surreal, let's say.
No, but it's like I like how this book almost feels like a dream at some points, where you're almost kind of walking through it, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" Um, I I like some of my favorite bits. Like I liked Isla when she was by herself and just basically trying to entertain herself while her sister's gone. And I was just, oh my gosh, I was cold sweating. I was like, oh man, she's by herself now, and it's gonna suck. It's like the stuff with Mia and that, or Maya and that feral boy she ends up finding. What the hell that was?
Yeah, it's another
Um,
kind of hint as to how the world is. But again, I don't want to spoil anything.
yeah. It was kind of like the road where I'm glad that you didn't like overly explain what happened. Oh, I
Because
think you
it's,
brought up nukes at one point. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, so it's kind of,
Made me think like, how are they not like dying right now? Just like coughing or whatever, huh?
yeah, it's, yeah, I know sort of the timeline. Actually, I'll talk about some stuff. So I wrote a novel. It's still in first draft years ago, and it actually ties into this trilogy. And so my initial idea was it kind of all of these stories started melding together, where the story I wrote a long time ago could potentially be part of a trilogy, a prelude trilogy or a prologue trilogy, and this trilogy is after that. So
Oh my god.
yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but just because one thing I've learned about writing in a trilogy is that I don't like writing in trilogies. I love reading standalones. I love writing standalones. I think I have too many stories I want to explore that um, with different settings and all that I don't want to just stick to one. And I'm not a fast writer, so
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's I was talking about character voice. Like, it's really hard to do that. Like, it's this. I want to say it's deceptively simple. Like, you're writing dialogue. Like, oh yeah, stuff's happening. You feel kind of a personality. But if they all sound the same, it just kind of like what,
yeah.
you know.
Well, it's what's tough about it
That's
is
one of the things that's driven me insane in my own journey as a writer.
yeah,
It's
I
like,
think
how did you?
I think the toughest thing about it is that how to explain this. People use the same words, right? you and I, for the most, we use mostly the same words, but you have to pay attention to the little differences. A lot of it is cadence and sentence structure, stuff like that, that help, I don't know, make someone feel like an individual. Um, it's not like you have to, sometimes it helps too to go a little bit exaggerated on one side. And then this other tip, which I actually haven't tried yet, but somebody on the Discord, she actually discovered my Worth 1,000 Word story videos, and she commented about voice, and she said she always writes her first drafts in first person to discover the voice because it's easier, which makes sense, right? Because you're writing it from I, even though you say he or she in limited third, and it's more or less first person, just with different pronouns. She said it helps her find the voice, and I thought that was a cool technique to try sometime, because sometimes for whatever reason, writing in first person flows a little bit better. I think it may be a little bit more wordy a lot of the time, because there seems to be a lot more introspection when you're writing in first person, or at least that's how, when I write in first person, it ends up going that way. And so to me, it seemed like a cool idea to try to figure a character out right from the first person.
Yeah, I mean, uh, no, it's funny about this book. Like I said, there's like some of my favorite bits, like when she's with that like feral boy or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
I also like the I like how it goes from like 0 to 100 very quickly when we get to the flashback, and it's all like, oh, I remember now, and it's just this really messed up stuff, just messed up. Like, damn, Jason, I wasn't expecting that out of you.
Really? I guess you don't know me very well.
You do like The Last of Us. Maybe I should have expected it, but like, there's like, it's like it's the trigger warnings now. There's mention of rape in this, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'll admit I don't get offended very easily, but when it comes to rape, I'm like, oh, yeah,
Well, I tried to be as tasteful as I could with stuff, subject
yeah.
matter like that. Like I'm not, I mean, again, maybe this affected you differently, but I never really explicitly describe anything like that. Um, but I guess just enough to where
Get the idea.
the idea of it is enough to evoke all of that. You don't need to get in the details, but I don't feel like the book was excessively gory or rapey or anything. But
Well,
again,
no,
maybe you felt it was.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't like that. It was just kind of like, wow, okay, and like. Me personally, I don't know if I could write about rape because it's just one of those or rapi, so I don't get like demonetized, even though I don't have enough subscribers for that. But yeah, that's one of those things. I'm like, I don't know. It's it didn't like offend me, but I was just kind of like, oh wow, oh okay, we're really going there. One of those subjects that personally kind of makes me uncomfortable. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm just a wiener. I don't
No,
know.
I mean it's a dark
I can read
thing.
about it, but it makes me uncomfortable. Like I'm not gonna go, you know, all pissed off and you know, I don't know. I feel like there's some people out there, not to go on a tangent, some people who get like really offended and like make a big deal out of being offended. It's not me. Like I don't get offended. It's more like uh, I personally wouldn't write about this stuff. I can read about it without
Yeah, hey man,
uh,
everybody has their own style, I guess. Yeah.
I know it happens, but it's just kind of like, oh man, I don't know. It's like I don't know if I could talk about it in a way where just now I'm just spitting word salad. I don't know, but
I don't
This
know,
book got
things.
really dark in some places.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed dark content. Like
I also enjoyed dark
I
content.
love dark content. So it's definitely reflected. I mean, I'm getting ready to release my short story collection, and I had to go through and read them all over again because I created this like appendix material where I'm giving my thoughts on each story, and yeah, most of them are pretty dark. So I'm like, wow, there's a trend here for sure. But
I also like dark content, but at
yeah,
the same time, I like there to be hope in the dark content. It's not just, grim. Now, I'm not saying your book was like this. There's like, there's moments of, human connection in this. But there are some books that are just kind of grim for the sake of it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think
Like your book. I don't think your book did that, but, I'm just.
yeah, no, I think my philosophy is that yeah, you don't want everything to be a single note, right? You don't want everything to be completely happy. You don't want everything to be completely sad or dark, right? You got to have, even horror movies. There's always a joke in a horror movie, right? Because you have to have those spikes of levity, right? Otherwise, yeah, you're going to be dragging people through the mud all the time. Sometimes there are films that are like that, where there is no hope, and that's the whole point, right? The whole point is to literally just destroy the viewer or the reader. But
Even Seven, which, one of the bleakest films I've ever seen, even it has its moments.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
like, oh, yeah.
I mean, I challenge anybody to find a horror movie. I mean, I'm sure people will, but
Be
I feel
Hereditary.
Hereditary.
Have you ever
Yeah,
seen
I
that?
get. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it a couple times. Yeah, you're
One of
right.
those
There's not much
I
happiness in that one.
yeah, I was one of those. I'm like, this is so fucked up. I don't know if I could see it again. I don't know if. Also, I saw it like not long after somebody I knew died, so eh. So I watched it with my parents, and they were like, "What the fuck did you get us into, Britain? What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I heard this was a good movie." She came out with this new movie.
Oh yeah, Bo is Afraid.
I don't know if I want to go see it.
I want to see it, but I'm not. I don't know if I'm going to see it in the theater or not yet. But
Yeah. Back to this book though. Um. Oh, I kind of imagine the atmosphere of this book is it's like it's raining a lot, very gray. I don't know if I'm off, but that's kind of the vibe I got. Like
yeah,
everything's dirty.
yeah. I
Only
mean,
like
it's the
little
apocalypse.
kids running around, and it's like it's raining. It's like Seattle everywhere.
Well, that's what allowed her to kind of get out of the bunker or wherever she was.
The
It's because
rain.
the rain. Yeah.
I know one of the things that threw me off. I'm like, okay, oh, this happens with her mom. She like runs off, and she's in like a dark cave or something. Like 2 chapters. Like what? What is
Which
this?
part?
It's the part after spoilers. Her mom, he like the guy with the gas mask, like hangs her mom or something. If I
Oh,
remember, I
yeah,
didn't even
yeah.
realize she was dead until I was like, oh, she's dead. I'm like, oh fuck. Went back. Oh, like I said, I'll admit, I kind of underestimated this book. I'm like, Jason, he's always talking about he loves his straightforward stories. Sure, I could get through this in like a couple of days. Give me a week to read this. Then again, I also got busy with school stuff too, so there's also that. But I'm like, Jason, you're always talking to me about character story, and I read your book. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm probably gonna love this. Now, there's a lot of weird stuff in this that I didn't entirely get.
That's
What's
okay.
going on?
That's okay.
What's going on, Jason?
Do you have any questions?
Um,
Without, I guess we don't want to spoil it for anybody.
so there were descriptions of like monster creatures. Were those monsters?
Well, remember what I said originally about the POV, right?
Yeah.
So it's a close POV,
Yeah.
meaning it's how someone is perceiving something. Meaning they could be perceiving them as a monster, but that doesn't necessarily make them a monster.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so I think that's
And
the
I
challenge.
think like Ayla meets somebody. Something
Isla meets somebody. Yeah. Yeah.
at the end.
Yep.
Um. Also a point where Mia gets attacked. She thinks it's like some. I thought it was some like monster. Was that the guy who?
Little kid.
Not the boy. I mean when she first like is looking for her mom, like at the like beginning of the book.
Oh. Yeah.
Was that
Kinda.
the man?
No, 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 no. You mean when she's I don't want to spoil things, but I guess this isn't really a spoiler because it's not crucial to the plot, but you mean when she feels like hands are grabbing her and she's like
Yeah.
crawling through the mud out of this like bog kind of thing
Yeah.
that we're talking
Yeah.
about? And
Yeah.
what's your question?
What was that? Was that like a monster?
No,
Was
it's a
that a
bunch
person?
of
Was
it's
that
a
just
bunch
how she
of a
was?
bunch of dead bodies that were essentially exhumed because the rain came down. And you imagine like after the end of the world there's all these bodies that are just buried under debris and mud and soil and all this stuff,
Oh.
and the
Oh
rain kind
God.
of, yeah. And so again,
It's even
I
more disturbing in hindsight. I'm like,
yeah
what the
I,
fuck?
I again I go back to perspective, right? So if
Yeah.
you are, I tried to really think about, this is probably why this novel took so damn long to write, but I really tried to think about what would it be like if you're out there abandoned, crawling through the mud, rain is pouring down, you're basically in quicksand, you see hands, you see heads. Like how do you perceive that? And she perceived that in such a way as they were actually coming to pull her back down, right?
Oh.
So they weren't, they were dead bodies, but again, she is so out of her head. She's so traumatized. She's alone. She's not like a very experienced girl. She's a young girl. And so just these bodies bobbing up around her in the mud and these arms floating up and all this stuff. I mean, it feels like monsters grabbing for her. And so I think if people read the book with that in mind, that what this girl's headspace and how you might perceive in a high stress state. So again, I don't want to say it's unreliable narrator, but I have to describe things in a certain way from her perspective that may be construed as a certain thing, like a monster or something like that.
On my read list. I was already gonna do that, but because like I said, I'm like, oh, 174 pages, that should be fine, because I tend to be, I'm a fast reader, right?
I know.
You're always like, damn, dude. Anyway, um, yeah, I was like, I might need to read this again because I wasn't entirely sure what was going on. Yeah, let's see. What are some other bits? So, like I said, I think one of the bits that threw me off was she escapes or something like that. I don't know. She's in like this dark space, like a cave. I kind of thought of it like a cave.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what that. So I was like, did she escape from the guy and was just kind of walking around, and then she met that like feral kid, whatever that was?
Yeah, so I
Or
guess the best way to explain it is I imagine the world where buildings have toppled over. They're all almost like melding together into these almost undescribable forms, right? So imagine like fallen buildings collapsing in on each other, creating kind of strange passageways, connection points, stuff like that. So that's how I imagined it. But again, we're experiencing this from Mia's POV. So to her, it's like it's a big dark cave of some kind with like beams and drywall and all that stuff, carpet, tile, it's concrete, you know. So I was never, that's why I never said, hey, these are fallen buildings all, you know what I mean? Because that's an omniscient POV, or that's a POV of someone who's not just mentally drained and fucked, basically. Does that make sense?
Okay. So there's also the man, who I guess you could call the main antagonist of the story.
Sure.
So I don't know. He just yeah. So he. I remember I got to the end of it. So he's like this. I'm guessing here.
Careful, don't spoil it too bad.
Oh, okay. I'll try and keep it as vague as possible. Put it like this. So what I picked up from the book is that he did something really bad, or something really bad happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially have. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, hold on. Let me finish. That basically drove him insane, and now he's like this religious cult nut job. It's kind of my interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, kind of spoilery, but yeah, I mean, I guess what I was trying to get across, and it's funny. I remember I read a Goodreads review, and it was a great review, but the reader was kind of let down at the end. They said, "Oh, it just ends up being like this," and I was like, "What the shit?" Like this mystery resolves itself in this way, and I can understand that perspective, but without getting into spoilers, I would like to say that thematically, all this entire trilogy is about, because I always love playing with this idea. This idea has always fascinated me, where we ascribe meaning to things all the time, but those meanings don't necessarily exist, right? And so that's kind of thematically, or purpose. Purpose is a big theme in this novel in terms of like people believe they have one purpose, but their purpose is actually something else. And so those two kind of thematic ideas are basically the entire trilogy. There's other themes also, but those are the two primary ones. And I think it's a risky move. Clearly, this guy didn't like the book. I mean, he liked it, but he was disappointed in how it ended, right? He didn't like the resolution, which I can totally understand. That's what's cool about writing books and experimenting.
I liked that bit. So I'm like, oh, okay. That solves that.
Okay.
It wasn't just like some weird boogaloo, you know?
Yeah,
what the fuck?
I mean, I have the typical, I have the typical sort of, what do they call it in fiction? It's the monologue of the villain, right? Basically where the villain thinks they've won, or not, whatever. They're in a situation where they explain themselves, more or less. So I have that in the book. That's in the book. So I think that answer is solved, and that is the answer that.
Well, I like that you show it. He's not just, on some sort of Ozymandias, I did it 35 minutes ago type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watchmen.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I love Watchmen. But,
I love Watchmen too.
But yeah, I like that you showed it and kind of you gave the reader like, oh, this is what this is. Okay. I didn't spoil it, did I? Because I was trying to be as vague as I could possibly be.
I would. I feel like you did spoil some things in the novel, but it's okay. I mean, it's not. Again, I don't think it detracts fully from the experience, and I don't think you completely spoiled the story. But yeah, you definitely brought up some things that were something that the reader discovers. Yeah, it's hard.
Trying to bring up plot points without spoiling them, so I can be like, poke and be like, what did this mean?
Yeah, the guy who has Mia's mother, and then eventually has Mia. You don't know who the hell this guy is. You're like, what's he talking about? He keeps saying this weird shit. What does this mean? Oh my God, it must be some big crazy deal. Where is he taking them? And I could understand why someone might not like the resolution that I gave. But to me, it's a fascinating idea because I think about that stuff a lot. When, we're constantly, as people, we experience events, coincidences, that we tend to think, or I don't want to say divine intervention, but we tend to think that things happen for a reason, subconsciously, I think. A lot of people go further than that and actually believe things happen for a reason. And that's fine. They may not. But the fact of the matter is like things just happen. There doesn't have to be, we're always the hero of our own story, essentially. And so we think like, we tend to project things on events that we experience or things we have to do with, things that we have to do with. And that's what I was kind of playing with here is just like, what is purpose? What is meaning? And obviously it doesn't work for everybody. And I'm fine with that. I don't think you can't write a novel that's for everybody. And this is definitely not for, I don't think I could write a novel that's for everybody. My tastes are too out there.
Well, but yeah, there was, it's like, I should just, stop stumbling over my words. I did like this book. I promise. I did. If I did star rating still,
if you didn't like it,
3.5
okay.
out of 5. It
I'll
would be a
take it.
3.5 out of 5.
I'll take it.
Or a 7 out of 10 since you like 7s. I gave it just for you.
I like 10s because you have there's more granularity there. That's why I like a 10.
That's fair.
10-point system.
Maybe like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. That's where I'm going. 7. But
C+.
This is so bad. It's just like there was this book did things that I wasn't expecting. I'll put it like that. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Okay. I like that.
I thought it would be a more coherent. That sounds bad. That makes it sound like it's bad. I'll put it this way. I didn't think it would be as surreal as it was. I thought it would be more like a straightforward, this is what's going on. Oh, that. Thought, sometimes I think too literally. So some of like the metaphorical stuff you were trying to do kind of went over my head a little bit.
That's okay. I mean,
my point.
Yeah, I think there's definitely things I would, moving forward, I should say, I'm thinking about differently because of feedback I've got off this novel. But I wouldn't change anything. It is what it is. I don't like the idea of going back and drastically changing creative work, like how George Lucas loves to go back and edit his movies. I think that's a terrible
there's
idea.
A temptation. I think that's a temptation a lot of writers deal with. I've dealt with it, and I haven't even published anything yet. So
I have considered editing my first novel again, not so much content-wise, but like flow. I haven't actually read it in, since I released it, I guess. But
I actually would like to read that, because I do like young adult stuff about, growing up, when it's not dumb love triangle bullshit. Divergent.
Yeah, it's darker. Let's say it's dark. It's more of a
stuff like Stand By Me.
Yeah, it's like Stand By Me. I would
Goonies,
say, yeah,
I like that. E.T. I like that stuff. I don't like the Divergent or Hunger Games. Or
no. I wouldn't say it's YA. A lot of people confuse young adult because the protagonists are young. I don't think that makes a young adult novel, because I wouldn't consider Stand By Me young adult, but every person in it is a kid, basically. So I kind of equate it to Stand By Me in a way. I don't think it's not the same story or anything like that, but it's or dealing with the same subject matter. But yeah, it's a darker coming of age story. Yeah, that's why there's a big like vertical blood dragging mark across the front.
I thought it'd be. I thought that I haven't read that book yet, though. I am hoping.
I need to get it in paperback. It's not available in paperback. I need to format it.
Yeah, man, get it on
I know, I
paperback.
know.
Put it on there. Yeah, no, but basically the one thing I can say for sure about this book is that it toyed with my expectations in ways I didn't expect.
I like that. I should put that on the. Can I blurb that?
So
Blurb that on the
yeah,
cover.
yeah, you can blurb that.
I like it.
Um, it like the story isn't that like I was expecting a more straightforward story. Is basically what I'm trying to get at, and story mostly makes sense, but there's some stuff in there I was like, what the fuck, you know? I don't know if that was intentional or if you were just kind of like,
Well, what do you mean? Do you mean like you weren't able to orient yourself? If so, then yeah, that was the intention. But
know how, one of the guys in the chat, his name's Lee, says he likes to know what's going on,
yeah, he's
and
gonna hate my book. He's actually
I'm
reading
the
it right.
same way.
Yeah, he's actually reading it right now. I didn't know he was reading it, but I tagged him in that 20 questions thing that you tagged me in, and he
Yeah,
responded and he said that's the book he's reading right now. I was like, oh man, Lee's gonna hate this book, um, because it is
I'm the same way. Like, I'm more patient with books because I've seen, like, he just goes, if I don't get what's going on, I'm done with it. But I try to be more patient with books. Um, like, I did complete it, so, that'll let you know. But there were, like, points I was, like, I like to know what's going on. And
yeah.
this book didn't always, like, tell me what was going on.
I what I
I wasn't
really
expecting to be as strange as it was.
Yeah, I mean, what I really wanted to, it's funny. So Jake on my Discord, he said it reminded him of Dead Astronauts by Jeff Vandermeer. I don't know if
I
you've
read
read
that
that
book.
novel. It's
I read it.
extremely poetic. I feel like it's way more poetic than this, but I can understand how he could get that comparison, and
I have not. I
I'll,
do hope to,
I'll
because
be
I'll
I'll be
read
compared to,
anything that man does.
yeah, I've read well, no, I guess I haven't read I haven't read his really early stuff, but I've read everything else. Yeah, it's a experiential kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Sensual? Though not, I don't want to make it sound like it's,
sensory. It's a sensory
sensory.
experience. It's
Yes.
I think the biggest thing I want people to know going into this, and again, I know some people just want to experience something blind and then give their opinion, but yeah, it's just think of it in terms of the POV character, the main one, Mia, is not in her right mind. So I can understand how the reader could be frustrated by not getting all of the details and all the information. It's like, but she's not in her right mind. She's not going to see the world in such a way. If she's in a pitch black chamber, she's not going to say, "Oh, I'm in an office building." Right? She can't see. It's
Uh,
pitch black. And so I was writing like this,
was it hard? I'll ask you this: was it hard to write? I know you kind of said it was harder than you thought, but like, was this book hard to write at all?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty hard to write. I mean, every book for me is hard to write because I'm never satisfied. Like I go line by line, just like scrutinizing every damn word I use, and so yeah, I
Try to
don't.
get it down, and then I go back and nitpick.
I've tried that method, but it's funny. I'm such a prose whore that like I get so tied up in the minutia, and it's so hard for me to like not stop. I think honestly, NaNoWriMo for
Thanks.
me is the best because I'm streaming it. I stream every day, and it holds me accountable, and I know I got to hit that word count. Whereas when I'm just writing my other books like on my own time, I don't have that accountability. And I know it's stupid because it's like I'm creating the accountability. It's not somebody coming to me saying, "Hey, you got to do this or you're going to die." Um, but I've yet to transfer the NaNoWriMo mentality, which is, the vomit draft and then you go back and fix it, to my
My
everyday
buddy,
work.
whose name's Josh, he gave me like a kick in the ass to write the project I'm working on now. So, because I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna write all this? Because I am like for this story I'm writing right now. Like I know where I want to take it. It's the chapter by chapter. It's really, for some reason, it's really hard for me to, like, okay, what would happen next? Like, it's been fine, but after a while I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening next. So I've stepped away for a little bit. I might work on some other projects. I don't know yet, but I'm trying to keep it at one project at a time. I don't. What are you working on?
Well, I'm working on getting my anthology together. So I have everything written, everything organized. I got to do the formatting for the paperback, and I got to do the cover. And then I'm working on, I guess it's sort of the second draft. I feel like it's a first draft. I feel like the first draft I wrote was more like a 0.5 draft of book 2 in this trilogy. But man, I have, let's see, I have like 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have like 3 or 4 novels just sitting there in draft 1 phase. And so my problem is I like, it's hard for me to finish something. I feel like I have the Brandon Sanderson situation where I want to keep moving forward. But my problem is I'm not like Brandon Sanderson, where Brandon Sanderson doesn't give a shit about the prose. For me, I got to go back, and I'm not happy. I got to keep going over and over and over again. And so here I am with all of these first drafts lying around, these completed novels that
Have you ever? I don't mean to get too off topic, but have you ever had those moments when you're writing, like you're just like, fucking hate how that sentence looks, like just
all the time,
where you're like typing it and you're like, okay, I'm moving along nicely, and then you're struggling with describing something and you just kind of type it and you're like, I hate that, but I'll get back to it later.
Yeah, I wish I could let things go and then move on, but yeah, I don't know what it is. I have a problem.
I mean, you let this book go, and it's
they eventually get released. They will eventually get released, but my writing pace is extremely slow. For me anyway. Ideally, I would like to do 2 books a year. I think that would be a great pace if I could maintain it.
Actually, doesn't sound bad. There's a post-apocalyptic story I'm working on that I've been slowly etching on for years. I just haven't. I know where I want it to go. I just haven't. I've started it a little bit, but I might need to go back and mess with it. That might be the actual. Might be the other project I'm working on now, since I think about it. But anyway. But back to this post-apocalyptic novel. That was a great transition. Oh, hello, kid. So I guess I was just like, you're always telling me, you're always complaining about how all the characters, the story, and I was like, oh, okay, this should be like a straightforward thing, and it mostly was, but you know, like you said, it's sensory. And I was like, what the hell? Okay.
The story itself is extremely simple.
No, yeah, no, it's
extremely simple. Yeah,
it's not difficult to follow. Just some of the stuff that happens is.
Right. Yeah, no, I can understand that for sure.
Yeah, it's not like it's incoherent. It's just kind of like, is he just being arty now? Like, this is just weird.
Yeah, I probably veered a little bit too much in the artsy territory, I think.
I thought you were a whore for character and story. I didn't know you were such a whore for prose.
Yeah, I am. Prose is a big deal. Huge deal for me, yeah.
Just telling me about, character and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, prose is a big if I don't connect with the prose of a book I'm reading, I can't do it.
I know, I'm the same, or well, I'm more lax when it comes to prose. I sent you something of mine to read. I was like, could you give me some thoughts on this? And then you were like, there's too much stuff in this. And you gave it back to me.
Oh, the one that you said it was like a personal story to you that you've been working on, that one? That Matt's and I read? The one that was a not urban fantasy, but
the fantasy, yeah.
The fantasy one? The one that I said, like, the language felt like modern, but you were telling it.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. You were like, you started talking about judges, and I was like...
Well, it's just, no. It's not that it's not that it's bad. It's just that,
Like, this is so stupid, minutia
No. I have a problem. So it's funny. I have an urban fantasy novel that I wrote with a friend that maybe I'll finish one day. Um, the genre to me, like it's a little like it's sort of campy by nature, I feel like. And I always get in that headspace when I read urban fantasy. I'm like, this is kind of cheeseball. I don't really care for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess my confusion is you said no, it's a period piece.
It's supposed to be. I know the language is a bit modern. I'm just kind of
That's what threw
like
me
I said.
off.
I'm trying to write it, and then I'll go back and be
Yeah,
like, okay, this,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it
Somebody's just
was.
like, get it down. I'm like, fine, fine, I'll do it.
I think it was that I didn't know it was a period piece, and so when I heard judges and things, I was like, "Oh, this is like Dresden Files or something."
Still
But
need to read
when I
some
talked when I
files.
talked to you, it wasn't. I was like, "Okay, I get it. You need to go back and you're gonna do this on another draft." But
Well, like I said, it was a first draft. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
like, I'll ask you this: how many drafts did it take to you know complete this?
Oh man, I'd say probably about 4 drafts.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, something like that. I'd probably my drafting process is I get it to a decent spot, and then I sometimes I'll give it to beta readers at that point. Other times, what I do is I put it on my Kindle and I read it like a book. Like I read it. That's a weird thing to say. I talked about that in one of my videos, but reading on a computer screen, like I don't read prose on a computer screen like I do when I'm reading a book. It's a weird psychological thing. So I
Yeah.
like to read my book as a book and see how it feels. And then a lot of times after that, I'll go back and then do rewrites. I also do a pass where I have a computer read it to me to see the cadence and all that. You know, because when you're reading in
Can
your head,
imagine that. It's just like,
even when
oh.
you're yeah, when you're reading aloud, you can glaze over things, right? Because you
Have
know
you
the
heard that? Have
story.
you ever heard that stupid automated like computer voice? I can just imagine. Mia waited for the third knock. The breath.
Well,
You know?
no, they have really
Is
good
it
ones
like
now.
that?
They have really good ones now that they're almost indistinguishable from.
That. Though I think it's funny at the same time. I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you can get ones that sound pretty good. But yeah, that's what I do too. Because what I'm getting at is that I my drafting process is a long process because when I release it, I want it to be like as happy as I can be about it. Whereas I know a lot of writers who are trying to crank out a lot of books, they're just like, oh, this is good enough. I'll throw it out there. Because they also recognize that a lot of readers don't care about that kind of thing. Whereas I get that. Probably why Brandon Sanderson's so popular. His prose is weak, but he sells millions of copies because people love his plots and his characters. So they don't care about the prose. Me, I care about the prose, so I can't let it go even if it doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Because it bothers me.
Yeah.
But
I. I mean, like I said, I like that you don't have like a super flowery style.
yeah,
That was nice.
yeah, flowery tends to come from like I used to be really flowery because that's what you think you think good writing is pretty writing, right?
uh,
It's not always that way. I think you can have beautiful lines here and there, but you don't want every line to be purple. Otherwise, it feels like you're trying too hard.
it just comes off as goofy after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's some people who can do it well, but it's just, but I mean, it's like I kind of thought for some reason there was like an eclipse. There's this on the back of my copy. Is there an eclipse that when you were envisioning this book? Was there an eclipse in this book?
Well, you'll know that a sun is mentioned quite often in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Something that Isla sees, right?
Oh,
So that is the motif of the cover. That is what the sun stuff is.
hey. Sorry, my cat is.
It's all right.
Um. Yeah, it was like I wonder who designed this cover.
I did.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, oh, about that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have a background in graphic design, so I do most the field. I did not do that cover. A friend of mine did it as a favor, but the other two books I did the covers for.
see. Um, yeah. Let's see some other stuff I liked or disliked. Um, ending was a little. The ending was interesting. You're like, oh no, what'll happen next? I guess I should ask where's the process at with the trilogy? You said this is a trilogy.
Yeah, so I
It's a
have
little, so it's a little one here. So I'm like, oh, where's number two at?
yeah, I have like I said, I have a really extremely rough draft of book two done. I'm going back, starting at the beginning, going through it, rewriting a lot of it, and so that's where I am. I actually was working on it today a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Was me asking you about this book that inspire you to get like, oh yeah, I should really get on this second book?
No, no, no. I've been chipping away at it here and there. I think that the funny thing about that book is I don't know. The challenge with that novel is it's something that I've never done. It's a lot of people. Well, not a lot, but about five or six people in a very small space. So
About to say this is pretty
it's
intimate if you ask me, but
yeah,
you know.
yeah. This
Oh
next one
yeah.
is as well. It's just more characters, and so balancing those characters has been a challenge for me.
Oh yeah. What happened to the. Got one. The one. Though it is a little spoilery. Kitty, can you not nibble on me? That would be nice. So Mia befriends a little feral boy. I assume he's feral or something like that. Well, he is smart enough. He remembers this. Like I also forgot to mention this. I like you have that the song, like a motif, the story.
Oh well, here's a little
I don't know if
Easter egg.
that.
Here's an Easter egg for you. If you take all of the chapter
I love
titles and
Easter eggs.
put them together, it's a song. The lyrics to a song.
Oh. 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 Okay. I'll have
The
to look
cha-
through my copy
the
again.
challenge of that was to make the chapter titles matter to the actual content of the chapter, but then also they also string together in like song lyrics.
Oh, are you trying to like crack my brain open? um, back to the feral boy. Um, the boy, the boy, he's a good boy. He can sing the song. He somehow knows, but she doesn't know how. I remember I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting. I can understand what's going on, and then like the guy shows back up, and like her mom is like a pet. Reminded me of Blood Meridian when the judge has that like special guy on around like a dog. You know that if you're where he has that he's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
backwards and he has that like guy on a like leash. Brother gave
So
him to him. Like
she
what the fuck?
she
I thought she
wasn't
died.
no, she wasn't a pet so much as she was um the rope around the neck, him leading them around kind of like captives. That's what that
Kind of
was.
like he was dragging him around like dogs. It's kind of what I thought
Yeah,
of.
exactly. Exactly.
The way
Which
you described that scene where she comes across him again, it almost sounded like he had her as like on her knees and stuff, like as like a pet.
yeah, she was on her knees, yeah.
And like she stops existing, for lack of a better word, and the boy like tries to like jump on him. And he just like smacks him away, and like that's the end of it. And I'm like, did he die? I was like, oh no, not the. I was starting to like that guy, but I know. Like I said, I was expecting like a more coherent, like this is what's going on.
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I was just like, I was about to just go, stop teasing me, book. Almost like you were kind of dancing around what was going on instead of actually, like, telling us.
Yeah, because it's
I don't know.
again, it's the POV. It's a type POV. So that is why things sometimes aren't described literally as what they are. Because she's
Oh, did that boy die, or did he just knock him out? Like,
it's pretty I think that section's pretty explicitly described what happens to the boy.
I know it was
But
it was coherent until like that part. I'm like, wait, did he just like smack him to the side or something? So
well
I don't know.
we'll talk offline. I don't want to spoil it
Oh, okay.
for the readers.
But things happen. I'll put it that way.
Things happen.
And and mom's a dog now. I guess threw me off. Like I always keep Justin's my DM for my game for my D&D game on Mondays, so I get the names mixed up. It's just like, is there something you're not telling me, Jason? Like, you know, like what you do is your business, man. But
Well, I guess the
my
question is like clearly you seem to want all of the answers, but is there a part of you that wants to just let it be and then let your interpretation sort of be what it is? Or do you really want to know exactly what everything?
I'm weird because I like to, like, be shown the answers, but I like it to be shown shown to me. I could understand it, you know. 'Cause if you just neatly explained it, I would just be kind of like, well, that's dumb. I don't. No, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm weird. That's like those two desires clash, you know.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's a tough balance when you don't resolve everything, versus resolving it. It's like the road. I mean, we never know why the end of the world happened at all. And
Yeah, but
because
like I don't think we need to know that.
no, we don't need to know that. Yeah, that's my point. Where a lot of people hated the book because of that reason. They're like, man, you never even find out why the world ended. It's like, dude, that's not what the book's about.
I have a buddy who just straight up hated it. The road. He called it misery porn, and I face palmed. I'm like,
He's reading it on the surface. That's why.
yeah. Also, just didn't like the prose style, and I was like, yeah, whatever. You know,
Yeah, I
like, all
mean,
right, you know.
Cormac McCarthy's not for everybody. I get it.
He'll link you that review and be like, I wonder what you would say to him, because I think you two would get along. But but anyway, um, yeah, this book reminded me a little bit of like when I read Bird Box or when I read Road. It's not as like, I don't know. Again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying, "Oh, this is the next road." You know, it's not like that
No,
at
no,
all.
no, no, no.
But
I
like I
would
said,
never
it's very
expect.
grimy, like the road. It's like I want to take a shower after I'm done reading it, like the road is. And it's like Bird Box, where it's very much about the senses. You know, well, in that book, they're blindfolded.
Yep.
This book, it's just really weird that way.
I'll take it.
Did you intend it to be
Weird and
weird?
incoherent, and I'll take it.
Well,
Did I intend it to be weird? So what I wanted to do, I knew
incoherent's the wrong word. Opaque is the right
opaque.
word.
Sure, opaque. So I didn't want it to be a standard post-apocalyptic story. I didn't
You're
want it to
being
be
coy.
being coy. I didn't want it to be just people in a familiar end of the world situation surviving. I wanted to add something else to it. I didn't completely reveal what that stuff is, but I started to hint at it, specifically with Isla. So there's more to it than what was revealed in the book. I started like laying the groundwork for what's to come.
You don't like setup books.
Well, again, it has an arc.
That's true. It does
The
have
arc,
an arc.
the arc, it finishes. That's my point. Is what I want. I don't like setup books when there's no arc. When it's just like, hey, here's a bunch of, I'm setting all the chess pieces up, and then book 2 is when things are going to kick in. That's what I don't like.
Hmm. But yeah, I feel like my brain is just on overdrive when I do these. You know, it's like again, it's just like this wasn't exact. This wasn't what I was expecting, and I don't know if I mean that in a good way or not. You can put that in the blurbs, like you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah. You should totally put it in your Amazon review and your Goodreads
No,
review.
I have Goodreads. I've thought about. Here's the funny thing. I've been thinking about doing a Goodreads review, but then I'm like, God, what would I fucking say about this book? No?
Be honest. I mean, I want people to read it and just be
I'll be
honest.
honest. It's just
I
kind of
don't.
like, what?
Yeah.
Because me, when I review stuff, I like to talk about themes and what the story is trying to say, and do I always do a good job at that? Yeah, you can arguments, but I'm very hard on myself. If you couldn't tell already. I try to explain how a book made me feel. This, I don't know the first thing about how this book made me feel just yet. I might have to read it again before I do a proper review.
Well, it made you feel, I guess, dirty and confused, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yes. That movie, Dazed and Confused, that was me by the end of the book.
There you go.
Affleck's about to kick my ass, like type of.
That's okay. That's okay. I've received enough of the similar feedback from people to know that, I guess, to just know what I want to do moving forward, right? I got to just be careful when I do things a certain way, because it's not that I
Be
want to,
so opaque.
yeah, not that I want to appeal to like a crazy broad audience, but yeah, this was an experimental novel. I tried some things worked, some things didn't for some people, and that's fine.
I
I'd
mean,
rather have a
me, like,
divisive novel, than a novel that everybody loves.
me, I am a whore for character drama. Because that's always that's usually what I'm worried about when I write. Is I'm if I don't give a shit about the characters, then what the fuck am I doing here? That's how I view it. Because I'm always like, okay, would the characters do this in this situation? They were pretty
Right.
good with that. Like most of the character decisions in this, I was like, okay, like this makes sense. And again, I didn't entirely know what was going on, but all the decisions made sense at least. Yeah, then Mia in the middle of it just goes, I fucking hate my mom. She's a bitch. How dare she let that happen to her? I'm like, bitch, that's not how that type of shit works. But, I
Well, I
get it.
mean, again, I guess another thing is I never really distinctly decided how old Mia was or is, but she's somewhere in her like later teens, I guess, mid to late teens. That's so you got to think of mentally where somebody is in that at that age, right? They tend to be a little more angsty, a little bit more they like to put blame on people based on frustration. So there's that element too, right? She's not an adult. So she has
Sure.
this kind
I was
of
about to say, I'm like, I
ignorant.
tried to cut her some slack. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, she's a teen. Like, I was a teen once. Not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, you're 22, so yeah, not very long at all.
Not too long ago. So, like, I'm like, okay, I get that, you get angsty when you're. Plus, you're in this. I mean, come on. That's like.
I mean,
It's
it's
like
really
premier
it's
angsty.
it's it's immaturity and ignorance, really. That's
Exactly.
what it
I'm
is.
like, okay, I get it, but I'm like, it kind of just threw me off, I guess. That's a
No,
good
that's
way to
fine.
describe this book. It threw me off a lot of the time. She starts like ranting about how her mom let it happen, and my like first like instinctual reaction, I'm like, bitch, that ain't how this type of shit works. Get blasted on Twitter if she said that.
Yeah.
And then I remember the one part where she was describing the flashback. I'm like, wait, Was Isla like raped? Or like no, 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 no.
I don't
Maybe.
know. She's I'll tell you this. I mean, I think it's I think I even say it in the book though. Isla was born into this world.
Yeah.
So she did not exist before everything fell apart.
Yeah.
So do with that what you
And
will.
now that actually reminds me, one of the things my buddy complained about when I read his road review is that, oh, the kid's too innocent. You know, he kind of his point was he thought the kid would be more jaded.
Well, I think
Road like
that's the
situation.
point. That's the point. I mean, Cormac McCarthy is he's not just that's one of the better parts of the book is that this boy is optimistic despite this shitty world. You know, he's literally the what do they always say in that book?
And the
Carry
fire.
the fire. He's the fire basically. You know, he's the light in the darkness. And I think if your friend thinks he should have been more jaded, again. I think your friend just completely missed the point of the road in every
Would
regard,
agree, but I
every
wasn't about to
regard.
tell him because he has a gift where he can just fucking come up with a great argument. I'm like, I don't know how to fucking respond to
I
that.
mean,
So
anybody
I
can,
haven't
and
tried.
yeah, anybody can interpret stuff and not like stuff. It's fine, but
I
he
mean,
was,
I fucking hate the Matrix. I've gotten blasted for hating the Matrix.
yeah,
My
he
God.
was reading it shallowly, let's say, very shallow.
And I was trying to like get across to him, like, "Yo, dude, it's about the triumph of the human spirit," and he's all like, "Oh, it's too grim." Anyway, this book was pretty grim. Oh, and went into some really weird places.
Yep.
Disoriented. That's a good way to describe it. Like I said, it's very dreamlike.
Well, that's good because that to me means I put you in Mia's head because that's what her experiences are like. They're disorienting. They're dreamlike. I guess nightmare might be a better word, but yeah, it's
You know, you should have called this song "A Nightmare for the End of the World." That would have been that would have been fitting. But no, like I didn't I promise you I didn't hate this book, and it's always like an awkward situation when I review stuff from people I know or I'm friends with because I'm like I don't want to hate this because now not that I you know I know you don't really take criticism too personally.
no, no, no.
But you know it's just awkward for me personally. I just started reading it and I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be a really interesting chat when we get to. So I feel bad now because I was like pestering you with questions. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? What are you doing? Puppy just walked in. What were you going to say?
Oh, me? Nothing. I was just waiting for you.
Oh, I was just gonna be like, well, what the hell is going on? Just kind of
Oh,
talking
you
about.
want to know what the hell's going on? Well, like I said, I don't want to spoil everything
All right.
on the
Maybe we get.
stream because people might want to read this book. So,
Like, what did I think of it? I think this is a really interesting book. Um, Dawn of the Red Sun. Um, and this wasn't the book I was expecting. About it. What I got for right now. As
unexpected.
for
I like it.
as for themes, well, survival, obviously. That's one I picked up on. There's a motif about songs. They have this little song that she likes to sing to her sister. Wrote it, so you should know. And you mentioned purpose. I'd kind of like to talk more about like what themes you wanted to go for in this book.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
we kind of talked about it a little bit, but
yeah.
like
Like I
what
said,
themes were you interested in
so
covering?
the themes
'Cause I
are
like theme at times.
yeah. I'd say the two major themes are purpose, right?
Uh,
Um, and then also they kind of go hand in hand, where we tend to think things are one way, but they're not. Right? So we tend to project expectations onto a lot of things, or we think that things have inherent meaning, but they just are sometimes. And that's something like a lot of people don't like to grasp because it's frightening. And so I think with this novel, I wanted to set up certain expectations while you're reading it. You think someone is going to be something or do something, and it doesn't quite end up that way. And to some people that may be disappointing, because I think anytime you're playing with a mystery and you reveal the mystery, you're going to tend to divide an audience, because we come to these stories with expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, some of us are disappointed, like the guy in the Goodreads review. Like, once I revealed what it wasn't meeting his expectation of what he thought was going to happen. But what he thought was going to happen was, again, it's all about perception. It's all about meaning that we ascribe to things. And that's really, I think, as much as I can say without spoiling it, because I can talk about every single character. Some of this is actually vocalized in dialogue as well in the book. But I don't want to say when, because it's kind of a spoiler. But yeah, I mean, if you want a full spoiler discussion, I can tell you how all of these themes work with the characters and the events in the story.
You know, this conversation's kind of fitting because we're like trying to be as opaque and dance around the stuff
I don't want
as
to spoil it.
possible.
I don't want to spoil the
And
story.
and story is very opaque, and it's kind of like it almost feels like you're dancing around
Well,
what's
because
actually going on.
I don't want to spoil it. I could totally break down every character.
Like in the actual book, it feels like you're dancing around what's going on.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, here's what's going on.
Yeah. Well, because again, it's through someone's perspective, and they're very clouded and jumbled, for lack of a better word, perspective. So when you're experiencing the book, you're essentially seeing through Mia's eyes, right? And what she sees is not exactly she's not going to be able to describe things in like an omniscient way that you might read in a book, where you're explicitly
not fully coherent.
Right, she's not coherent. And so because of that, that is how the prose is written, and that is why you feel like disoriented, because Mia is disoriented. That was the entire point. And I think that was the experimental part of it, is that I took a person who wasn't in their right mind and I told it through a very tight POV, which yields a reading experience that isn't crystal clear, right? It's like, I don't know what the fuck this means, but that's okay, because it's not about what it is. It's about the experience of the character. That's what I was trying to capture. And so, clearly it doesn't work for everybody, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't expect it to, because it was experimental.
No, it's funny we're talking about assigning meaning to things that might just be completely pointless. I know you kind of are hesitant to try out cartoons because picky son of a bitch.
It depends. It depends on what it is. I like drama.
I think you would like BoJack Horseman, because it also deals with themes.
Maybe
there's that motif in the story that the show tells about.
But it's also
but
it's also a talking horse. You know, I think that's. It's funny. I'm not a big fan of comedy in cartoons. Like, if it's dramatic, I'm all for it. I just don't like comedy. Comedy's like really personalized. You know, like comedy is very like a sense of humor is a broad spectrum, and I find that most comedy I see doesn't fit on where I am on that spectrum. So that's kind of why I stay away from cartoons.
But yeah, BoJack Horseman deals with that a lot. Because like, there's one scene where he's talking about some guy came up to him because he was on a sitcom. He's like, you know, were you trying to make some commentary about the subjective nature of time because some coffee cup was there, and then when it was on the other, the shot moved and it was gone, and he just like, I didn't have the heart to tell the guy, nah, man, some crew guy just left his coffee there.
Well, see, it's a
You know?
joke. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's all centered around comedic stuff, which I like comedy. It's just I don't like much comedy. Like we were just talking about the show Beef. It's a dark comedy. There's comedy in it, but there's like serious meaning behind it. It's a
I
beautiful,
actually need to
beautifully
see
written
that.
show. You totally should. It's one of those shows
I don't even
again.
remember the last time you were like, wow, this is great, because you're always just like
I
fucking
know I'm
nitpicking
critical.
everything.
Yeah, I'm critical about my own stuff. I'm critical about everything I watch and read too. Yeah. That's why I review books, I guess, right? So I
It's
can
true.
give my critiques.
But yeah, you were talking about purpose in this, so
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and
Also, I fear maybe like my heart wasn't fully in it when I was reading it. I might need to read it again some sometime later. I don't know when,
why was
because
your heart not in it?
I'm a mood reader, you see, and I know you can just kind of I know you can have your little show where you can have people pick what book you want to read. I don't know if I could do something like that.
Oh, really? Because you have to
I have
read stuff
to
based on your mood then, huh?
have to really want to read it. And I did want to read this book, but I don't know if I was like fully in. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah, I'm not a well-known author, so it totally makes sense. And you know me, so it's different. I think when you know
It's true.
somebody that you're reading their work, it's a very different experience than if you pick that book up off the shelf and didn't know me.
Yeah.
I bet I would almost bet I would bet you would hate that book if you didn't know me.
That's a fair point. I can't say I can't go like, nah, man, I don't know, but it's I don't know. Maybe I would be like, what the hell?
Yeah, and that's fair. I think that's the thing is like I
You
don't
trying to
want.
go for a what the hell reaction, Justin? Is that what the Jason? Damn it! Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Was that what were you trying to get a what the hell reaction out of your audience? Is
No,
that
not
were you
really. I
toying with
was
your
I was
audience?
I was trudging through the mud and the debris along with Mia the entire way. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted people to experience that. Some people liked it, some people don't like it, and that's exact. Honestly, I say this quote a lot because I love it. Nick Refn, the film director, he
Yeah.
said, when half the audience hates it and half of the audience loves it, you know you've made art. And I remember hearing that quote, and I'm like, damn right, dude. And so that's why I'm never when somebody hates my work, it doesn't bother me because there's generally somebody also that likes it. So if as long as there's somewhat of a balance there, I feel like I've created something that's worth being created, versus selling out and making something that's universally liked because in that case it's going to be derivative, it's not going to be trying new things, it's not going to be pushing any boundaries. Like that stuff doesn't interest me. And so I don't know.
Well,
So I'm
to
cool
be
with.
fair, a friend of mine once said, "Nobody can tell a story like you can. It doesn't matter if it's familiar, because
Yep.
you are your
That
own
that was
unique
that
person."
me or somebody else? Because I know I've said that before.
Um, might have said it, but I remember my friend Josh telling me that. So
It's yeah, it's a common thing. I think I first heard it from Sean Coyne, who is an editor. He runs StoryGrid. Um, but yeah, I remember he said that once, and that really clicked with me because so many writers are so obsessed with creating something original that they never get anywhere
I've
because
gotten
they're
out
like,
of
oh,
that.
this is like, yeah,
I've realized that. Like,
you're
that's
never
one
gonna
of the
make
things I'm
anything
glad I've
original.
learned, because I've met writers who have wasted a lot of years trying to go for the original story, and then they're like, "Oh shit," I just try to write what I think would be fun to read, and other
Yes,
people would like.
yes. Exactly. I write for myself. It's funny. A lot of people say like you should have you write for a person. You know, you have a person in mind who represents your audience, and that is who you write for. It's like, nah, fuck it. I write for me. I'm selfish. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. If they like it, they like it. It's fine.
That reminds me of my dad, because he always is like telling, because he's very supportive of my goal of being a writer, but he's always going like, dude, maybe you should like try and like find an like audience. Well, I'm sure the audience will come. I like talking about stuff I like to talk about.
Yeah. I find that so my first novel, I go and check reviews every once in a while, and there's some really nice reviews. Really nice reviews on there. And it to me because I put a lot of myself into that book. Like I put a lot in it. Like I worked on that book.
I was gonna mention. I didn't want to mention this. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
There were points in this book that it felt kind of personal. You were like, you were kind of like reliving like the Firefly stuff. I'm like, feels like something little Jason would have got up to.
Well, I did love bugs as a kid, so there is that. There's even a picture of me back here on the shelf. I'm probably, I don't know, like 2 or 3, and I'm like about this far away from this bug on this leaf. Because I've always loved insects. I still do, and so maybe that part of it came out. I mean, I've never like
it was like there were points in this book that felt really personal. I appreciated them. I'll put it that way.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can't say that I really pulled from my own life in this one, but I think as long as there's that feeling, as long as these people feel like they're coming from somewhere, then I think that's cool.
What were you saying about the field? You were talking about reviews.
Oh yeah, so every time, what I mean is like I put a lot of myself into the field. Like that's probably the most personal book I've written, and I think that was my first actually completed novel, and a lot of people dissuade you from releasing it because they're like, it's just your fucking you're getting all your shit out, right? And
that's always been my struggle, is finding an audience, because I'm always like I'm always trying. I'm a guy, I like to leave it up to chance. I'm like, I'm sure I'll find my people.
That's my philosophy. Yeah.
If I work at it enough, like I'll find my people, and I don't know. Not a lot of people like my weird ass stuff, though. I mean, I've gotten some kind comments on my new videos that I've been putting up. You've left a couple comments.
I comment on every one of your videos, man.
I know. Yeah, you do.
Gotta help the algorithm.
I know. I'm actually, like, I was gonna mention, just as an example. I'm reading the final book of the First Law books, the Last Argument of Kings. And, like I said in Before They Are Hanged, Abercrombie's really good with character voice.
He is.
It's like, with this, like, there was, like, opaque stuff that I didn't entirely know what was going on. Like, in this, like, it's in the character's perspective, but I know what's going on. I don't know if that...
Well, again, the for me, the element...
Joe Abercrombie's a sellout?
No.
Point my stick at you.
There's plenty of other stories I've written, and the novel I'm working on now is not as opaque because, again, the people in Joe Abercrombie's book aren't trudging through a wasteland, abandoned, starving, hungry. Not, you know what I mean? They're like, they're not a broken mind for the most part.
Or even the road. Like, I could understand what was going on.
Well, so the road is written on omniscient POV. Cormac always writes an omniscient, so he's saying what things are versus being in the heads. He kind of dips down into closer POV, but he's an omniscient writer, so that's the difference.
Yeah, it's like, at least with like in Joe Abercrombie, like that's third person limited.
Yes,
I could understand what was going on. Same thing with like George R. R. Martin. I'm like you. I like third person limited because you can follow the character, but I don't know why. I've thought about doing like first person stories, but I don't know if I could do it because you know
Yeah, like I
it's just a
said.
pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. But I'm sure if you read my first novel, you would not be like, I don't know what's going on, Or if you read my second novel, you probably would not be like, I don't know what's going on,
But
or any
they'll
of my
put it
short
in
stories.
paperback, bro.
Yeah, I know, I will.
I want to read the field.
But my point is that yes, it's third person limited. Yes, you can make a coherent story out of being third person limited. Mia is not in her right mind.
Okay.
She's exhausted,
That's the main
hungry.
takeaway from this.
That's what I mean. And so that is why it is told the way it is told. And again, that I can see how that can be off-putting, but that was my intention. Not to be off-putting, but to be quote unquote opaque and disorienting, because she is disoriented.
I
that
like
make
that
sense?
word. Opaque. It's a good word.
It's a good word.
Obelisk. I like it.
Well, any more questions, or did we exhaust all avenues?
What's the status of the second book?
You already asked that.
Oh yeah, I already asked that.
But I will tell you this: pick a number between 1 and 4. What? 2? All right, I'm going to give away 2 copies of this book to your viewers. So however you want to do it, you can pin your comment and say, first 2 people to comment, get a free copy. Paperback or ebook, whatever they want.
I like this idea. All right.
You're like, man, I should have said 4, but it's 2. So yeah, 2 copies. However you want to do it, I can send them to you, or if you get their info, I can send it to them. But yeah.
All right. You heard the man.
So if you listen this far in the interview, I mean, we are an hour and 36 minutes in. But I'm guessing you're gonna post. You can post it in the comments or whatever you want to do so people see it.
Yeah, I'll make a pinned comment.
Yeah. Because I'm not gonna make money at this. I just want people to read my shit and give me feedback. Like that's what I'm looking for. I want to share these stories. I don't, and hopefully somebody will read it and either hate it or like it. I'm okay with either.
All right. Like I said, guys, you heard the man. He's putting out 2 copies. I just thought 2 because I was thinking of the second book to this. So Oh yeah, I'll put this way. If you're gonna read this book, just realize it is a bit opaque, and like Jason said, she's not in her right mind. So I actually thought about getting some alcohol for this occasion, but I didn't get around to it.
You'd be.
I didn't want to get drunk again.
Yeah, you might be a little opaque yourself if you started drinking.
Yeah, no. Just yeah. One of my I run a podcast called Brit and Jake Go to the Movies, and we were covering the Snyder Cut, and I don't like Zack Snyder's films, so I decided I'd take a shot for every Zack Snyderism that I can't stand. And I end up getting pretty plastered during the what's that? The coordination? That's not the word. During the events of the podcast, so we had to make a second parter, which I was gonna do anyway because Snyder Cut is ridiculously long, and I got suckered into watching it, even though it was just okay.
Yeah, big surprise there.
Better superhero films out there, and I got suckered into watching that. I didn't even want to watch it because I hate Zack Snyder's movies, but I digress. So if they did make a movie out of this, would you want John Hillcoat to direct it? He did The Road.
I think if I had John Hillcoat would be great. Alex Garland would be my probably a number 1 pick, I think, or Danny Boyle maybe. I don't know. Alex Garland, Danny Boyle.
They worked together on 28 Days Later.
They did, but yeah, Alex wrote it. I'd say like Danny Boyle's directing style is, to me, and cinematography is probably geared more toward this than Alex Garland. But hey, man, I'd be happy if anybody directed it. I don't care.
Yeah, I was reading this, you know, because sometimes I like to visualize what the characters look like.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Who did you
I like
picture?
to, again, my friend Josh put it, I like to hallucinate when I'm writing. I like to visualize what was going on, which was tough, because I didn't know what all was going on to this damn thing. Who was I visualizing? I don't know. I thought I kind of envisioned her. Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
Yeah, I didn't finish it, but yeah, I've seen like half of it.
You know the girl in that movie, the brown-headed girl, the Jewish girl.
Yeah,
Jojo starts hanging out with. I envisioned her.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
Okay.
Mom, I was kind of like, I don't really have anyone in mind. The guy in the mask, I was just like, I kind of thought he was wearing one of those like Russian Spetsnaz masks or something like that, or like a plague doctor mask, something like that. 'Cause, you know, I'm weird. But
What about Isla? Anybody?
Isla, oh god.
Too young to
Not
really
really
think
anybody in
about it.
particular, because there's not a lot of small human actors out there.
Yeah.
Like, that small.
Yeah.
I just kind of imagine one of my cousins, you know, her.
You put your cousin
really
through
loves
that
her.
terrible thing.
She really loves her fireflies.
Yeah.
Isla does.
She does.
Not really much else for me to say. I mean, this book kind of had me running around in circles for a little bit, and I was like, oh man, how am I gonna approach this? You know. Yeah, I guess the nightmare I had was you'd just be like, you didn't get it, you fool.
No.
Like
Again, I've allowed myself.
Luckily, you were very understanding when I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this?
Yeah. No, I'm not offended if people don't
I
like
was
it.
about to like go on some big rant about how you're always like complaining about like characters and stuff. I'm like, this is opaque. What is this?
It's opaque.
That's the best word I can say for it, aside from like disorienting, or God, what's another word? I want to say incoherent, because like there's a coherent story going on in this. But
yeah.
Not just Grant Morrison where he's just throwing shit at the wall and you're like, what the fuck? No, it's not like that. But I recommend this. Yes, if only for the experience. You might have to read this a few times. Don't be like me and let its 174 pages think like, oh, this should be fun. You know, it is more challenging than meets the eye. Or even times I was like, maybe I'm just not feeling it, I need to come back to it. But yeah, I liked it. Again, I might need to read it again. Because still some stuff I don't quite understand.
Read it on a stormy day.
You know, it's been raining the past couple days, and I fucking hate rain. I don't know why. I hate it. Maybe you like it. I don't know. I don't know how everyone else is.
I'm okay with it. I don't want to live in rain, but, you know, from time to time, it's all right.
Yeah. Not really much else for me to say, aside from, I think you should check this book out. And that it's very strange.
Well, thank you, Britton.
A Song for the End of the World.
Yeah, 2 copies at you guys out there. So,
2 copies.
However you want to do the contest, it's your channel. But yeah, I'll happy to give away a couple copies.
Yeah, all right. Jason is very generous, man. I will say real quick while I have you on here, thank you for my copy.
Of course.
You're the one who gave me this.
Of course, man.
Because I was like, yo, bro, could I like? I was trying to like be like, because I try not to be that guy who's like, you know,
handouts, begging for handouts.
Wasn't trying to kiss your ass so I could get like free books. I like, you know, but I'm like, yo, could you like hit me up with some of those books? And you're like, yeah. So like, cool. I might read your Sword and Sorcery one because I do like me some Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah, that's a very simple story. You'll have to read the afterword. You'll kind of get where it came from. It was an impromptu story that I wrote for somebody.
Yeah, I should probably wrap this up though, because I need to piss really bad.
Well, good thing you got a toilet right there.
I know my mom. I've had a couple videos with that in the background.
I know.
And
I've
my mom's like, why
laughed.
the? My mom's like, why the? Shut your door.
Yeah.
Because she's like, it's gonna make you look weird, you know.
Yeah, it's a cool little quirk you got going on. You got the lid up and the toilet in the background.
I know I forgot to shut the door.
It's
but,
part of your aesthetic, man. It's all right. Builds character.
Yeah, no. But yeah, thanks for talking to me, Jason. I
Of
knew you'd
course,
probably
anytime.
jump at the chance to talk about one of your books. We should do this again sometime.
Yeah, man. Of course, anytime.
I want to talk about. I would definitely like to read the Southern Reach trilogy again, and maybe I could talk to you about that because I know you love.
I've been meaning to read that again as well. It's been a while.
Is that the omnibus you have back there, or is that the fantasy he did?
This is the omnibus. Yeah, this is a signed omnibus. Lucky me.
Oh my God, you're so fortunate.
Personalized even. I didn't meet the guy. He was doing a signing where if you ordered some book, he would sign it, and that's how that happened.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'd like to meet him someday,
Jason, Jason, would you like to shill your stuff before this is over?
Yeah, you can check out. I also have a YouTube channel, Jason Fuhrman, where I talk about writing and books, and I have read-alongs. I do various kinds of videos, and I'm also clearly a writer. You can check out all my stuff on Amazon. And I believe The Field is, The Song for the End of the World is, I lowered the price, so it's cheaper now, in case you don't win the contest. The Field, however, is absolutely free. You can get it on all platforms if you want to check it out. But yeah, that's me.
Put it on paperback.
I will get it on paperback. Promise.
So you have a Sword and Sorcery story I heard about.
Yeah, that one is in paperback. You can get that one in paperback. All proceeds go to charity on that one.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it'll make sense when you read the afterword.
But yeah. So check this book out. You can find me on Twitter, find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, which, as I like to say, I write reviews on there, which are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. And I also have a Discord, which is fucking. Crickets are chirping right now. It's so empty, so please join. So, again, thank you, Jason, for coming on. And I apologize for keep messing up your name.
I know. This has been the best interview. I mean, you've called me Justin like 5 times. It's great. I'm kidding. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to jump on anytime.
We should do this again sometime.
We will. All right.
All right.